This is Assassin's Creed Unity. We're on Xbox Series X, and this is a very exciting day because a pile of FPS boosted games has dropped. Well over 70, I heard 90 something. Whatever the case, I thought we'd kick it off with the legendary Assassin's Creed Unity. So for context, if you weren't aware, you could actually run this game at 60 FPS on Series X prior if you installed it right off of the actual disc itself without getting any of the updates. But you couldn't experience it if you had any of the updates, and it was kind of hard for some people to, kind of get that system working properly. But now with FPS Boost, which is just on by default and a benefit on this, you get a full 60 FPS. You get Auto HDR, which looks wonderful in regards to the lighting and the quality of the environment of Assassin's Creed Unity. And it runs at like 900p, which, a little bit rough, but you know what, for the most part, having like a fully updated 60 FPS running Assassin's Creed Unity is kind of like almost a dream come true if you're from the early Xbox One days where this game ran like garbage. So it's kind of truly amazing to be experiencing this game at this level of fluidity and actually having it all run perfectly well. This is the perfect time to give Assassin's Creed Unity a whirl if you've never played it before. You don't have to sacrifice literally anything. You get the full smooth resolution boost, or well, I guess you could say anastrophic, but you get the full improved resolution quality, you get the auto HDR, you get the high fluidity, you get a really kind of somewhat more polished game after all the updates. I mean, it's not perfect, but the fact that you can now enjoy it like this, I think is absolutely fantastic. And it seems to be running very well, which is nice. I mean, it is actually a decent game at its core. Ow. It just definitely had a lot of issues over the years, that's for sure. But it is a really great experience, and it's definitely worth checking out if you've ever been curious about it. You get to view this really interesting time period during the French Revolution, and you get this really neat character, and he's got like a cool dynamic with this woman, and they're kind of, that they're very close in how they grew up and stuff, and seeing the dynamics of the two of them across the story is really quite engaging and well worthwhile. Like I said, it's a really cool universe to explore. I think you get quite a large location. It's a pretty big map. There's lots of crap to do in it, like tons and tons and tons of stuff to do. I actually found the story quite engaging, and I love the sense of detail. Like, they really went all out to feel like a next-gen game last gen, and of course, we had horrible performance issues, but now we don't. You get to enjoy this experience, and I've been calling for a remaster of this one for quite a while, just so that people can have like a full how this experience was meant to be enjoyed. But now I don't necessarily think we need one. We have the fluidity, we have a decent looking visual presentation, we have a really unique world to explore, and it's quite a fun game. It's definitely wild. There's lots of like little side missions, there's interesting main objectives, and it was still an Assassin's Creed that sort of focused on being kind of a little bit more stealth-oriented. It was one of the more traditional, but also next-gen-esque experiences when it came to the Assassin's Creed franchise. So if you're wanting something a little bit more, I guess you could say almost retro at this point, or traditional within Assassin's Creed, this is a good way to experience that. And it's quite a lot of fun to play. And you know what? It looks pretty decent, I gotta say, for its age and stuff. And I just think having the crowds, having that actual fluidity target now is really a great thing for the longevity and just basically the history of being able to enjoy this franchise at a proper quality. I think this is really an amazing sort of upgrade to have here, and it's just such a treat to be diving into this one right off the bat. I thought this was just kind of a perfect starting point for me, just because of the history of this title is really quite fascinating, and there's other really, really good games as part of this, collection of FPS boosted titles. But there's something about this one that I just really, quite enjoy. And I'll be honest, I reviewed it pretty harshly back in the day when it came out, and that was mostly because of the bugs and the issues and stuff. And over time, things have been cleaned up. It's running better. You know, obviously there's not as many issues now, and we actually get a really clean version of it. I'd actually still really like to see what they could do with a bit of a remaster on this one, but I'm very content with the improved resolution, or resolution. I wish the improved frame rate and stuff here, and I mean it does actually look better because of the auto HDR and the Anis, but you know what I'm talking about, the Anistrophic. But yeah, it's just a really interesting experience to be jumping back into this one, or while having another excuse. It just seems like I can't escape Assassin's Creed Unity almost. I've covered it decently often over its, you know, kind of release. I mean, I was doing more written stuff back in the day when this came out, when I was covering it. And then, you know, I covered it on the 1X, and that was pretty popular, and then I covered it on Series X, and that was pretty popular. So to be back again on Series X, not that long after its initial release, and to be kind of showing it off and talking about it, is kind of a really fun little surprise. And I didn't, you know, actually I kind of thought this one would get it. I had a good feeling about it, and now we're here, and as you've been seeing, it's running very smoothly. You know, I'm not really having any sort of like drops or issues or anything like that, and you get to enjoy the full scope of like all these people. Like, it feels like an actual densely populated city, which is not something you really get out of a lot of games, because it was a little too ambitious having so much stuff going on at its time. But now that we're, you know, down the road quite a bit later on, we're completely benefiting from their, you know, work on this back then. So that's kind of fantastic, and it's nice to have this sort of legacy experience be present here that we can just really easily enjoy, because this game can be quite fun. It's definitely got some neat moments to it, surprises, and again, a lot of kind of collectibles and things to gather. I mean, you can spend way too much time playing this game. Like, you could just explore and gather resources and fight the oppressors for as long as you want. It's really quite a cool entry in the series, and it's got fun weapons, a mix of like guns and other smaller tools as you go and you do your, you know, assassin type missions, cool outfits, and there's also an element of multiplayer too. You don't have to just play this by yourself. There are some heist missions. When the game first came out, I actually thought those heist missions were going to be like a cooperative, like, campaign type thing, which they didn't end up being, but it's still a pretty, you know, cool experience being able to enjoy it as is. I'm just really happy that we're able to, without having to adjust anything, without having to change anything, enjoy this level of fluidity with it. Like, it feels really great. Oh, sorry about your book, my friend. It feels reactive, and it feels like a next generation crowd, even at this point today, because I don't think there's too many games that can go toe-to-toe with the crowd density that's present in this one. Like, it's expansive. It really is wildly large scale, which is super cool. Oh, we got some criminals. Just so much stealth with this. Because nowadays, you know, obviously Creed's a lot more like RPG oriented, but here it very much is, you know, the start of the generation of Creed, the start of when things changed. The scope of it is just really quite impressive. Again, we're going back to like the crowd density and stuff. It's just nuts. Like, they're all fighting and stuff, and then you've got people like they're throwing objects. You can see that. So they've got tons of little objects. There's so much density in these crowds, and all these people are doing different things. The models look different enough in variation. Then you've also got enemies mixed on top of that you can just kind of assassinate really fast. And then you've got all these like cool buildings where you can go in and you can do all these different challenges. I'm glad I still have stuff to do with this game though, because you know, it's you play so much of it, and then there's just like, this really started to feel like an endless entry just in terms of what you can do Assassin's Creed wise. It feels super big in terms of scope and what it offers. So I think it's worth giving a whirl to. Like, seriously, like I mentioned earlier, now that you can actually enjoy this smooth frame rate, you will find this game to be quite unique and challenging in some ways, I suppose. And of course, you know, you've got that story, and then you've got hours upon hours of weird miscellaneous things that you can enjoy as you explore this expansive city offering. I mean, there's so many cool little areas to go to and different stuff to do, and there's like some DLC missions that expand it a little bit further. I also like the sword mechanics. It was still a little bit more duel based, if that makes sense. Like, you're actually dueling enemies and stuff as opposed to just mashing through crowds, which was awesome, and then you get more abilities and stuff. I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say story-wise. You get the gist of the character, and it fits in kind of nicely with the Kree titles of the era, adding to that story too, which was cool. Have we taken this base yet? I'm just wondering how many more enemies are in this vicinity. But it's yeah, it's cool. And then you can jump in the hay bales still. Classic hay bales. Yep. I don't know, I think the level of detail and stuff is still fine in this one. Hello there. I love all the reactions in the crowd and stuff. And I hope you've been just getting an idea of, you know, how it's running and looking. And it's not too bad. It honestly is. It's actually a decent experience. Ooh, geez. Oh, look, there's the dog, and there's so many people selling things. I always found that just fascinating in this one. I thought it was always in a restricted area. That's what we're doing here. Oh, causing commotion with the folks on the side. Huh, have I not killed everyone? Oh, we still got some more guys. Hope I've given a good balance of combat and gameplay, too. It's just exciting. Ow. Oh, I got cut up and killed? Oh, that's funny. That's really interesting. I wasn't expecting that. You gotta watch your health and stuff in this one, too. Sometimes you die and you just, like, fall over and you're like, uh-oh, that wasn't good. But obviously, you know, loads super fast, plays very smoothly. Ugh. And it doesn't really have as many bugs these days, you know? There's no areas where the audio cuts out, and, like, there was a lot of problems with this game. Like, a lot. Like, if you were there at launch and you've played it since, it's a way better experience than that time. Because this one was quite a mess, needless to say. Points where audio was cutting out, low frame rates, you know, bugs and glitches and crashes and stuff. And it's nice to be able to properly kind of see the vision that I'm sure the developers had for the game back in the day. Fully realized here. I think that's kind of exciting. I'm honestly always curious to see, you know, it'd be really neat to hear about like what developers think about this sort of FPS boost, just in terms of, you know, what it provides in that. I think it's really quite exciting that we're seeing the full potential of these older games being unlocked. Ow. Yeah, now we're at a bit of a... I always felt that it was a little hardcore to deal with crowds and, you know, get a little overwhelming in this one. But a neat balance in this, because it's definitely a lot different than, you know, the later entries, because you actually have to feel like you're dynamically fighting people in sword fights. Ow. Oh, he got me again, man. This guy's... he's a bit talented with that sword, I gotta say. I almost need to assassinate that individual. But you get the different approaches and stuff. Like, this is just an environmental thing you can do outside of the scope of the regular game. We're not even, you know, necessarily tackling anything story-wise. We're just going around showing it off, so you get an idea of things. That's what my hope is. You can, you know, you can understand how the game is sort of running and what it provides at this point in time. Lots of fun little surprises. The story actually is kind of cool. I did really like these main characters and stuff, and you know, the adventures you went on. It was a neat chapter, and I love, again, the era, the period of time. It's really neat, the French Revolution, the whole concept around it, and I think this one sort of beautifully presents that era in a way that I don't think you see in any other game. Like, I don't think there's really, not off the top of my head, a game that really does this, you know, the French Revolution at all. So I think that's quite cool. And it's just such a treat to be back playing this game. What is this mission? Cafe, do I want to renovate? Yes, let's renovate the cafe. And you can do stuff like this. You can buy, like, clubs and stuff. And the map's all, like, blanked out because I have to go do the, you know, synchronization thing. If you've played Assassin's Creed, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about in that regard. But, you know, just bought this place and it's kind of all fancy. I see my contracts and stuff. Once you get these in here, you have people coming in, making your money and that, and it just offers a little neat dynamic of ownership in the game too. I guess you could say that's a fun part of it. Get to that second level, and I like the movement in this one. It definitely felt a little bit smoother than other ones, and the co-op's kind of cool too. If you have buddies to play it, it's actually an interesting cooperative mode that you can, you know, do. You're a little bit doing heists and stuff. And I was even, like, one of my friends was pretty intense about it, and I I think I joined his like crew or whatever. Because back in the day, he was really into the Unity experience, and you overlook certain things at the time, but still, I just remember this one having so many problems, and it's really quite perfect now almost. I mean, obviously not perfect because it's still got some little bugs and hiccups and stuff like that, but I think it's a proper showcase now. Hello there, you want to give back the money? Yeah. All these little events and stuff you can do, which are kind of fun. It just it gives you a lot of things. Did you just climb through a completely open wall there? There we go. Nice. Surprises, endless battles. Assassin's Creed Unity kind of provides a lot. And a murder mystery or two. That's kind of fun, but yeah, neat game. I hope this kind of presented it well. I'm not noticing any sorts of issues or anything like that. It seems to be running quite well. Because sometimes you might get like an introduced issue or something like that, but nope, it's all running. And it's feeling really, really good to jump into here and really experience what it has to offer. It's a vibrant world. It's one where revolution is happening. And of course action as you work within the creed. And for the creed, and by the creed. Always a pleasant time. Ow.